weekend announced this game will be on ESPN3 through the Aggie Vision stream, so it will be on ESPN3 this weekend.
Okay, guys. It's a big game. You look. They started playing this game in 1894. It really is kind of amazing. I mean, I guess New Mexico was a territory at that time. Didn't become the 47th state until 1912. I mean, it's 18 years before New Mexico became a state. It's pretty unique. It's been going on a long time. And, the Rio Grande rivalry, you look at, I'm a big fan of the Southwest. You look at that Rio Grande River, that really in itself is kind of unique, right? Starts up there in Colorado and up there at altitude. I guess basically a bunch of streams kind of come together and, goes from maybe 7,000 feet or whatever it is up there down to 5,000 feet here and down to 3,000 feet in El Paso and ends up trickling through the desert. If there's been enough snow in the winter and enough rain in the summer to keep it even trickling, and then, dumps into the Gulf of Mexico. There's a lot of things that tie these two universities, whether it's the Rio Grande River, I-25, both in the state of New Mexico. So it's a big game. It's a rivalry game, and we all know what that is. We've all been in a few of those, and everything's relative. This game is absolutely as big as any game anywhere in the country. It is to me. So our focus is to get better and improve. That old coach's thing of you always get better. The most improvement you make is from the first game to the second game. That's all just talk. That's all just talk. Last year, I think we won a game 66-0. Second game, we played our worst game of the year. Absolutely our worst game of the year out here against Tulsa. So it's a big game. It's a big week. We're preparing, trying to get better. And Rick, if you want to start it off, I'll be more than happy to take your question.
Just based on the UTEP film, do you see anything strikingly different from them on either side of the ball?
Yeah, I think, a little different personnel. They've got two giant offensive tackles. Giant offensive tackles. They certainly added a couple of junior college receivers, in particular number 16 that ended up on fire at the end of the game. They've got O.J. Clark back, who was injured last year, a little speedster from Wichita Falls. The quarterback has been playing since we've played the last 3 years. He's been the quarterback. Defensively, it's maturity. There's the same faces, the same numbers, the same guys playing aggressively. Frank Spaziani, I've known him a long time. I've been around him many times. I've watched him play. I've watched him play triple option teams. I know he knows what we are and we know what he is, but they play really aggressive up front. They attack the line of scrimmage. Really a contrast to South Dakota completely. South Dakota was more of a read kind of a front. They may line up somewhat the same, but it's a totally different style. They got a new punter that's in. Looks like he did a good job. So, there's some familiarity there, but there are some differences to what we've seen.
Has Austin earned the right to start again this week, and what do you plan to do at the quarterback situation?
So much of it is the style of defense we play against, quite honestly, and absolutely what we feel like we need to do to be successful. So the question is, has he earned the right to be starting quarterback? Absolutely, based on how he played. But that doesn't mean that Lamar didn't deserve the right to play against South Dakota earlier. It all depends on the style of defense, the flow of the game, and what we have to do unselfishly to move the ball against the style of team we're playing against.
Coach, how big a positive is it to have to grow up early in the season, in particular when you're down 14-7 and all of this stresses on your team and everyone coaches too, suddenly have to grow up?
Yeah, Henry, I think that's
explain that in coaches' terms.
there's something I addressed last week. You know, I stood up here and probably sounded like coaches talk, and I probably, if I was sitting there, I'd look at it the same, but it wasn't to me. All we had to be was the best team in that stadium last Thursday night. That's all we had to be. All we had to do was beat South Dakota by 1 point. And I think the problems you get into in the first game, particularly when you're favored, maybe particularly when you have expectations, maybe it happened to Tennessee, maybe it happened to Mississippi State, maybe it happened to Iowa State against Northern Iowa, almost happened to Tennessee. I could keep going. Almost happened in Nevada against Cal Poly is you put way, way, way too much emphasis on what happens first. And all of a sudden you panic, the air comes out of the balloon, and, you know, it's harder than you thought it was. And then you can't ever rebound. And I think our team is a mature team that actually listened to how they're coached and how they're prepared, and they were able to withstand that. Because, I'll be honest, South Dakota's a good offensive football team. You know, South Dakota State put 40-some on TCU Saturday night. Same school, South Dakota State. And with that quarterback from Minnesota, schematically what they were doing, they were difficult. And there was a point there where we couldn't stop them early in the game. I mean, it was a nightmare. But I think through maturity and I think through the message, they were able to not overreact and panic and hung in there. And then we kind of got settled down and played better as the game went on. With that said, they still continued to be a schematic problem, though, with screen passes. Well-coached team. You know, the guys won a lot of games, and they've got pretty good players on offense.
Coach, what do you want to see, like, if you wanted to see some improvement in some areas, what do you want to see in this game?
I want to see us play better. You know, the last 2 years, you know, particularly defense, they've had our way. They've had their way with us. They really have. I mean, if you go back and look at it, we've not played very well. That's not to take anything away from them because they are talented. They are talented. The most decorated player in this state as a college football player is in Las Cruces. They've got a quarterback that started 3 years. I've heard Doug Martin say it's the best group of wide receivers he's had in 20 years of coaching. They've got tremendous confidence in that offense. They're good. We have not played good. We have not played good. And the challenge is to go play good in this game and improve on how we play against them. It's that simple.
Coach, you said last week the offensive line was one of their inexperience or going through a transition. Are you seeing some progress there? Because I believe it's going to be one of your keys for this year.
Well, you believe like I believe. I mean, that's the case. And, you know, South Dakota was a good test in that they were well coached. They lined up in the right gaps. They played sound defense. But South Dakota didn't have the most explosive, penetrating, attacking kind of players up front. They didn't. And the test will become much greater this week. So, you know, the offensive line probably passed that first quiz, but they really haven't had a test yet. And they have to continue to improve. You know, we've really approached this in a lot of ways since Thursday night like this is training camp. We know what we are. We know what our inexperience is, and we've yet to really been tested up front, quite honestly.
As good as Rose is, whether he plays or doesn't play, how much does that affect your defensive game plan?
It doesn't. It doesn't. You know, they do what they do. You know, whether it's number 14 in there, obviously number 3 is a great player. You know, I've, like all of you, seen the clips of him running up and down this field last year in this stadium. But as far as preparation or what we call, quite honestly, or how we play, absolutely nothing changes.
You mentioned last year's kind of week 2 letdown, worst game of the season you thought your team played. Do you put an emphasis on that this year as far as let's not have a week 2 letdown, or do you emphasize that to the guys?
And JP, I don't think it wasn't a letdown. It wasn't like mentally we went out there against Tulsa and we're flat or we weren't excited or we thought because we scored 66 points on Mississippi Valley we were some great team. We just weren't prepared to play. And that starts with training camp. That starts with everything we do every second. So it wasn't flat. It wasn't that we weren't excited. We just weren't good enough. We hadn't improved enough as a team, whether it was playing against tempo, whether it was with playing the power. They ran 26 powers on us last year on offense, Tulsa. We just hadn't improved enough as a team through training camp and through that first game to be good enough in the second game to win. And there's been almost a maniacal effort of learning from past mistakes. And hopefully as we mature in this program and we get better as a team, that we're able to get better, and we'll find out this week. But there's certainly no guarantee that all of a sudden we're going to be better. You've got to go play.
Coach, did you expect that much out of your receiver core in week one?
I was hopeful. We've got a talented group. Probably not as talented as theirs. I mean, that's but we got a couple guys that can play okay. And I think getting confidence for young receivers is very important. So I knew we were capable. I know we're even capable of doing more. So it was good to see those young guys get off to a start. So I don't know, surprised isn't the right word. I was happy to see that they had a chance to show the potential that we think that they have.
They played UTEP last year. Non-conference schedule for you each year is always going to have the Aggies. Next couple of years, you got some big games coming up type deal. Any talk in the future of trying to get UTEP on a somewhat regular schedule?
We have. Bob Stahl is a good friend of mine. Talked to Bob Stahl a lot. Bob Stahl and UTEP has sold beer in that stadium for a long time. He was in on that conversation as well, and we'd like to do it. I think it makes total sense that New Mexico State, UTEP, and New Mexico play on a yearly basis. So I'm all for that. I think that would be a great idea. It's difficult. Scheduling is so much more difficult than what people realize. I was asked a question about the South Dakota game. How did that come into fruition? It all started with us supposed to be playing at USC this past week. And then ESPN wanted USC, Alabama. And for a financial consideration, we let them have USC. And then South Dakota was supposed to play California. South Dakota was supposed to play California, and then ESPN wanted California, Hawaii on opening night in Australia. So South Dakota became open. So you can see a bit of that puzzle is how all that stuff works.
With the players, they make a big deal in talking with some of them. They want to go through their whole 4 years, 5 years, not losing to the Aggies type deal. So it's almost a pride thing for the players. From a coach's perspective, is there that much more importance on this game?
Win the next game. Every game is the most important, particularly when it's your rivalry game. Numbers don't mean a whole lot. What happened in the past means absolutely nothing. It's week to week. It really is.
Walsh got his bell rung, and you did get him back in the game. Is there any lingering effects on Walsh from that hit?
No, other than he dropped that ball.
Yeah, I know.
No, Walsh continues to develop. He's practiced all week. He's good. He's fine.
What about Cole? How well did he grade out?
Cole played pretty good. He made a big block on an arc block on the safety on Terrion's big option over here in front of our bench. I thought Cole played solid. He played solid. He didn't have a lot of opportunities, but he played solid. I think a good start for him. Better in space than we thought. He can adjust a little bit better out there in space. Of course, he'll be trying to block much faster guys in space than he had to block last Thursday night. But good start.
How much of an advantage the extra 2 days to get ready?
They had open date last year before they played us, so I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm glad we had it, not because of specifically who we're playing against, more because we've not won a second game, I don't think, since I've been here. And somehow to find improvement between the first game and the second game, I'll take all the time we have. So we've absolutely utilized this to the very best of our ability. I told the kids last night, I said, nobody in this room will remember what you did on Labor Day. Whether you had a picnic or you were in this office all day or what, but you will definitely remember what happens on Saturday in this game. So we haven't had a whole lot of Labor Day time, or we hadn't packed the coolers up, or we hadn't been to the lake or anything like that. We're flat trying to find a way to be 2-0. So, Jeff, I'll take every extra day we have to prepare for this second game because we hadn't been very good.
Well, do you think that's psychological, or what is that? It's just a second game like that, that's kind of...
Well, I think the first year we played Texas. I got a few more in there, you know, so I think we played Arizona State second game one year, and Tulsa was pretty good. I think Tulsa put it on Tulsa the next week went to Oklahoma and had 680 yards on Oklahoma last year. Tulsa put it on San Jose pretty good Saturday night. So, you know, it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things.
How'd you grade the physicality of your team? Are you a hard-hitting team?
That's your call. You make that assessment, man. You sit up here and watch us, Henry. I'll let you answer that, if we're a hard-hitting team or not. Appreciate you, yeah.
You talk about improving on a general nature. I'm sure that is all encompassing, attitude, execution, learning the place, that kind of things like that. What is the point of emphasis for this week? To be the best team in the stadium.
And what you say is right. You know, from week 1 to week 2 is all encompassing. You know, certainly I showed them clips of LSU, what the offensive tackle did after the interception by Wisconsin. I showed them clips of Alabama, where they had DBs arguing and fighting on the sidelines during the game. I showed them the clip of USC, where the kid stomped on an Alabama player and was lost half the game this week. I show them everything. It's getting better in every single phase in everything we do. And you can practice all you want, you can create all you want, you can simulate all you want. There's nothing like going out there and playing a game. And there's nothing like giving up 2 big home runs to a quarterback who all of a sudden just ran down the middle of the field on an experienced defense, and you have to react. So everything we do in every phase of it is taking lessons from everybody and applying them to our team and trying to get better. You know, it's never about one game. It's about building, 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 building. And we've got enough tools to take the next step. But whether we take the next step or not, still to be decided.
For this week, the point of emphasis, is there one?
Play our best game of the year. Get better from week 1 to week 2.
Coach Cosgrove said that was a assignment, those 2 were assignment errors. Were they assignment errors or just missed?
No, there were 2 things. On the 2 long runs, it was exact. They gave us a little formation that no excuse. We should have been able to line up to it, but we didn't get the front overshifted to the field enough. And they had kind of a tight end wing sitting there to the field, and we were pressuring from the backside, and the ball got outside contained. He just ran 50 yards down the field and outran us. So there was an alignment issue that we didn't get the front kicked over. And we were really short one man to the field, and he just took it and scored. On the second one, Ocasio hit him up in the hole. They ran a quarterback power. Ocasio smacked him. He bounced off it, and he scored. The third one was we were in straight man coverage, and they threw a jailbreak screen into the boundary over here in front of their bench on a 3rd and 8. And we went back and forth, should we pressure, shouldn't we pressure? It was a perfect call against the perfect thing. It was man-to-man coverage, and they picked a guy, and he went 40 yards. So those were the 3 plays in the game.
On the first one, then, are you fairly frustrated that you didn't get lined up right with an experienced defense?
Maybe you are. You know, maybe you are. It was a formation we hadn't seen. We didn't get the front kicked over. It probably happens 20 to 25 times in football. They had a guy that was very fast at 235 yards that took it and scored. So we just got it corrected, and we moved on from there. You know, it's not, oh, God, I'm frustrated now. We're not very good. It's the same message I gave to the players. Things happen. You get it corrected. You react to it. It's not like, oh, my God, I'm so frustrated right now.
It's only one game, but what about Corey and his punting? What do you think? Average.
Shanked one in front of the bench. You know, I should have gone for it on 4th down. You know, it was 4th and 2, 4th and 1. I kicked myself because if he's going to punt it like that, I'm going to go for it on 4th down, quite honestly, even though we were backed up. He was average. And that's under no pressure, right? That's under easy as the conditions are going to be, so it's a concern.
Speaking of that, I mean, if you're faced with that situation again, are you confident enough in your defense to maybe take risks on fourth down with your offense?
I think it starts more with, can we make it on fourth down? You know, what do we feel confident that we can do? Who are we playing against? Can we make the first down? And how's the game going? You know, the flow of the game, like all those decisions. You know, there's a lot of circumstances, and it comes down to a gut decision based on much more than just one thing. Because quite honestly, just like that scenario, I had high confidence level we'd make it on fourth down. But we were well ahead in the game. I really wanted to see our punter punt the ball again, honestly. And then after the fact, I said, hell, I should have faked it if we're going to punt the ball. Well, I don't even know how far it was. I don't even know if it was 11 yards.
Coach,
10.
with that saying, will our old boy from El Dorado, Sam Tincher, get a chance to punt this year?
It's got to be eligible academically, right?
I know that.
So what, you want me to appeal to the NCAA because he's from New Mexico that he should be punting now, even though he's ineligible? You think they'll have a special clause for us for that, right?
No, middle of the season, he'll be eligible, right?
Maybe Corey might be averaging 45 points.
You have another hypothetical for me or what now? All right, guys. Appreciate it.